All right. Hi, Kawaii Kon. This is we have another panel coming up. It is the Kawaii Comic Con presents live chat with comic book man Ming Chen, and they're gonna be live right now. Take it away, guys.
I gotta
Uh,
get in the mindset. So yeah,
yeah,
mahalo everybody. Mahalo from New Jersey.
yeah, and it's like what 10? What time is it there?
It is 10 o'clock here, and not as tropical as Kauai. Probably not as much of the paradise, but I am in the home of Kevin Smith, so I can't complain about that.
Ooh, awesome, awesome. Yeah, so you
And
got to imagine that you're in Hawaii at the Comic Cons and giving you lays. And I remember the last time we saw it in San Diego Comic Con. And then there were those. Do you remember there was those guys from the Star Wars? There was some other Hawaii guys.
yes,
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry.
yeah.
I didn't
Oh,
introduce myself.
yes.
I'm Aaron Yamasato. I am the organizer, creator of the Kawaii Comic Convention. So, yay! Thank you so much for Kawaii Kon for inviting Kawaii Kon, the Kawaii Comic Con, into this virtual event. So we really appreciate everything that Kawaii. I always call Kawaii Con the Senpai Con because what is that? Because they're the sorry, my wife. Bye. It's like, what are you doing? So
Bye,
what is
honey.
it? Yeah, I know. Live streaming. But yeah, they're like the Senpai Con. They've been around since like 2004, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, in Hawaii. So they're like the big first con in Hawaii, and it just slowly grew and it grew. And yeah, it's like huge now. Big
That
anime. Yeah.
I had heard about them many years ago. I was like, wow,
Oh,
there's
you
a
did?
there's a Kawaii Con in Kauai. And I was, and I looked into them, and they celebrate. I think they do more anime, right? It's more of as an anime pop
Yes.
culture.
But then now
Um,
it's cool because they're doing like American animation. So they have like Steven Universe, guests from
oh yeah,
Steven Universe, and yeah, yeah.
and
Then all
I was
the
like, I remember I was like, how do I get into Kawaii Con? Like I'm Kawaii, like
yeah, you've been to no the Kawaii Con. Actually, so
yeah,
there's also I was gonna tell you is there's also part of this virtual con is what is that, Comic Con Honolulu.
yes,
So they're another one, and they bring more the pop culture
okay,
Comic Con kind of thing.
yeah.
So you're thinking, yeah, that's the one that you could be at in Oahu. That's on Oahu, by the way, and
Yeah,
we're on.
but I remember I met you in we were at San Diego Comic Con 2018. You gave
Mhm.
me your card, and I was like, "Oh, whoa! There's a Comic Con in Kauai. Like, how crazy is this guy to start a Comic Con in Kauai?" And I remember I was peppering you with questions. I was like, "Well, what do people come out? Are there are there are there
What?
pop
Because you've been to Kauai, so I'm sure you've visited Kauai, right? So you know the whole
I
vibe.
Yeah, I did. It was one of the best times in my life. I went there
Oh, that's great.
2002. It was my
Mhm.
honeymoon.
Oh,
So me and my
oh.
newly married bride, we were
Mhm.
there for I think like maybe 5 or 6 days. Stayed in a hotel on the south side, and
Mhm.
we snorkeled. We went to an ice cream place on the east side of the island. Went north,
Mhm.
went hiking, everything,
Oh,
helicopter rides,
awesome. Waimea
everything. It
Canyon.
was
This is the canyon, the
yeah,
Waimea
yep,
Canyon.
yeah. Did
Mhm.
that, and
Mhm.
you go there, you have to do the Jurassic Park tour,
Yeah.
they shot Jurassic Park,
Uh-huh.
in the canyon, and I
Wow.
just
Oh,
had
yeah. Mhm.
and I remember the day I left, I was kinda bummed out. I was like, "Wow, that was such a beautiful place, such a great
Mhm.
experience."
Oh,
Will I ever
wonderful.
be back here again? Will I ever be back here again? It's a destination. You have to plan for something like this. After you
Mhm.
get married, you go on, you start your life, you have kids, and it's tough.
Mhm.
It's tough to get back. But
But then a lot of times people do return with their kids, like,
yeah,
after their honeymoon, then they bring the family here and they can go swimming with the kids and tour around. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if my kids would eat poi or Kahlua pork, but they're old. They're old, but I remember last time I was there, there was you were driving around. I was like, is that a Kentucky Fried Chicken? Is there
Oh, you went
like
through Lihui.
yeah, it was there. I was like,
Super
huh,
McDonald's.
okay, just in case, like I'm not gonna eat there, but I know it's there if I ever need it. So
And McDonald's. We have a
and
McDonald's. And we now have a Jack in a Box that
there's
like
a, you can get
recently it
yeah,
recently opened up.
wow, you get 99-cent tacos in Kauai. Okay.
Yeah. The crazy thing about Kauai is like it just opened up. Well, not just, it's been a few years, but when it did open up, there was like the line was crazy. Like Jack in a Box. So for all the people on Oahu or anywhere else, they're like, it's Jack in a Box.
Right, but I guess it's a mix of people who'd never been there before, so curiosity, and then the mix of people who missed it from being on the mainland, all
Mhm.
coming together. Jack in the Box brought people together, kind of like Kauai Comic Con. So
Yeah, yeah.
which is amazing.
Uh-huh.
So this year would have been, I
Mhm.
think, year two. This
Yes,
would
it
have been
would have
year
been our
two.
second year because yeah, last year was the first year. And like you said, it's like we really didn't know if people would show up because we're a small island and yeah, are there cosplayers on Kauai? Are there well, I knew for sure like Marvel and DC and all the rise of the comic book movies and popularity. So I wasn't too sure though, like if people would show up. But yeah, we got tons of people that show. It's at the Kauai Marriott Resort. Have you been there?
Yeah,
Did you?
I think I've either been there or I've driven by for sure. I rented a car that whole week, and
Mhm.
I feel like I probably saw everything. So that's
Yeah, it's a beautiful hotel.
that
Yeah, so it's a yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, that's just so amazing that I mean, the one thing I've learned I've traveled definitely the country to a lot of Comic Cons. I've been to certain parts of the world where
Mm.
Canada. I got to go to Scotland, and I'm
Wow.
always wondering if fandom is the same around the world, and I'm
Yeah, what
learning
is
that
it?
it
Yeah, what
is.
is it like? Like all around, all the different going to all the cons, like the
It
differences. Like,
it's just amazing. Of course, I know there are fans here in New Jersey, and but are there? I'm always like, what's fandom like in Nashville, Tennessee, or what's fandom like in Las Vegas, or what's fandom like in, Wyoming or whatever. What's fandom
yeah,
like in
yeah, yeah.
Scotland, and it was. I
Uh-huh.
think in other countries it's even crazier than it is in America, because they
Oh,
have
really?
less
Why is that?
access. I think they have less access to all the stuff that's created here. Here
Hmm.
we can just go, we can get all the Marvel DC collectibles.
Hmm.
We have probably in America, here in the mainland, there's probably a comic book shop within at least 10 miles of wherever anybody lives. But
Hmm.
that's not always the case where other people live. So, when they bring all of that into one central area for a 3-day convention, people will come out for it because
Just
yeah, they're
devour
like,
it.
wow, yeah, it's like this might be my one time this year where I can go down and find the collectibles, either
Hmm.
ones that I've been looking for or either ones that I didn't even know existed. It's and talk to fellow. I think the most important part is gathering with fellow
Hmm.
pop culture fans. Um,
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what happened with Kauai. Like,
yeah,
we don't have a comic book shop here. So unfortunately, but there is a place called Talk Story Bookstore, and they sell comics, and there's some other retail, but not like a exclusive comic book store. So when we had the Comic Con, then everybody was like, pop culture and
yeah, I was like,
memorabilia, and yeah, eating
yeah,
it up.
so I guess everybody who was collectors maybe brought down their long boxes down, and they were actually like a central gathering of comic book collectors in Kauai. That's so amazing.
Yeah, and we had one of our special guests was Carl Potts
Yeah,
from Marvel. So yeah, that was like all the Marvel fans and Punisher or even DC. Yeah, they were like really appreciative. That's the cool thing about starting the Kawaii one is everybody was so appreciative.
yeah,
Like after because we've never had a Comic Con. So that made me think like, oh, we gotta continue this because there's the audience, I mean the community here really wants a Comic Con. and
Oh
the
yeah.
chance to meet people, and then going back to what you said, the fellow geeks and the fellow. So one of the coolest things was how I was wondering, are there cosplayers on Kawaii?
Yeah.
So there actually were, like, they showed up, all of these cosplayers, and we had a cosplay contest, and it was awesome. And then the cool story was they got to meeting each other, and they're from Kauai, so they got to connect. And like you said, the fandom, connecting
Yeah.
with different people and different vendors and things and artists, and just that feeling of connection was
Yeah, that
really
I
cool.
think that's so important. You probably
Mhm,
went through the same thing I did when I was a kid.
mhm,
I mean, I'm an old man now, but when I was growing up, I fell in love with comic books and
mhm,
Batman and superheroes. And
mhm.
when we were kids, it wasn't cool. So we got made,
Yeah.
we got made fun of by other kids who weren't into comic books. And then all the adults came down on me because they're like, why are you reading comic books? Like, read a real book. All your books have pictures in them. That's not a real book. That's
Yeah.
not real literature. Like, you need to be reading real books without pictures in them. I'm like, well, I like the pictures. I think the artwork's cool.
It's
I think,
cool, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm still reading. There's words in here, so I'm still reading.
Mhm.
It just so
In a way,
happens,
it's like learning, right? Learning to read. I mean, it's reading, right?
yeah. I'm like, why are your books are boring? Your books don't even have Frank Miller in them. Your books don't. Your books are. I was always like, you should read this. This book is called The Watchmen. Like, this is a real book, and they were no one would. So it was tough. So even in high school, I didn't
Mhm,
have a lot of geek friends. And then
mhm,
one day I found this one kid, and
mhm.
I was like, wait a minute. We started talking about the X-Men, and I was like, wait, hold on. You know who Wolverine is? He's like, oh yeah. I was like, you know what adamantium is? Like, he was like, oh yeah, man. Like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. So we
Wow.
became instant
Mhm,
friends. Like, I used to go to that we started hanging out after school and watching James Cameron's movies, and we would watch Aliens over and over and Ghostbusters and
mhm,
play video games. And then we met
mhm.
this other kid that was into the same thing. So it was us three, kind of this. I had my little geek gang, but
Yeah.
nobody else knew what we were talking about. And it was cool that I met them, but it was frustrating because I knew, there were 400 other kids in our class, and I wanted to
Mhm.
tell them, I was like, you don't understand, like,
Oh,
Wolverine, like,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jean Grey, Professor X, the
Uh-huh.
Avengers, Captain America, like, these stories, they're so great, and I wanted to explode, but they
Mhm,
they wouldn't listen to me, and it was pretty frustrating. And even when I went off to college, it got a little better. I met some more fellow geeks, and then I think right before I graduated, it was about 1996, 1997, and that's when, like, DC Vertigo came out and Image became big, and then it got way
mhm.
better. But even then, like, we didn't have, like, the Comic Cons we knew of now, until maybe, it's about 10
It's
years ago,
cool.
maybe like 10,
But the
15
thing is,
years ago.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's cool because I remember going to the San Diego one in the
yeah,
90s, and or just come, it was like, yeah, it was just like, it's kind of crazy. I tell people there are the days where you could just walk into Hall H.
yeah,
Remember those
yeah.
days?
You
It was
didn't
just like,
need, like, a
what's going
ticket.
on?
You didn't need to camp. No tent. You didn't have to bring a tent and camp out. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember it was like, well, there's 7,000 seats in there. We'll fit everybody. But now,
Mhm.
yeah, no way, man.
Or even before that was like, it was all comics basically, and bootleg
Yeah.
videos and VHSs, and that's why I would get all my bootlegs, all the Godzilla movies and
Yep. Godzilla
comic.
movies. Back then, before Batman wasn't on DVD. I would have to buy
Mhm,
Batman. The old
mhm.
Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie, that wasn't out yet.
Or
That's actually
The Star Wars holiday
no, it's
special.
worth holiday special. I have that. It's a first appearance of Boba Fett, in cartoon form. So, like, this is so cool. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
When I was younger, no one would listen to me, and no one thought
yeah.
any of this stuff was cool.
Mhm.
Fast
So
forward to now, I could go to Kawaii Comic Con, and there's 500, there's 1,000, there's thousands of people who, if I say Wolverine, if I say adamantium, they know immediately what I'm talking about. It's so great. It's so
isn't
great.
that great?
So
Everyone knows Iron Man now. Like
Yeah,
before, I'm sure
yeah.
I'm sure you remember the days when people didn't know
Yep.
who Iron Man was, right? So
Yeah,
now
yeah.
everybody knows Iron Man, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
everybody knows and loves Iron Man, or maybe
And
Lieutenant
Wolverine,
Captain
like you
America,
said.
but at least, yeah, yeah. But they appreciate under Iron Man, so it's so great.
But it's not like like what you said before. You mentioned the name Wolverine or Iron Man or something, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, like, I never heard of these people, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible. There was a time where nobody knew who these characters were,
Mhm.
and and even like Star Wars. We're huge Star Wars nuts,
Oh
both of
yeah.
us.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think and now Star Wars is a religion, and people wear T-shirts, and people I saw the other day like Coach, the handbag company,
Mhm.
they have a collaboration with Star Wars. Like
Oh
you can
wow,
get a
Coach.
Coach Star Wars handbag. Like that's how mainstream it's gotten. But a lot of people don't remember like after 1983,
Mhm.
no one really talked about Star Wars for like 10
It
years,
was Star Trek.
Yeah, it
Remember
was
that
Star
time?
Trek
That
because
whole phase? Yeah.
because they still had movies coming out, and they had a TV show. They had Next Generation was out, so everyone was
Mhm.
into Star Trek.
Mhm.
Nobody remembers like those dark times after Return of the Jedi, and before the
The dark
re-releases.
times.
Yeah, no one really
Oh,
talked about Star Wars anymore. So
hey Ming, do you want to say hi to my wife and
yes,
Haku, my
Hi,
dog?
Ming.
This
Haku,
is
what's up?
Haku, the
Haku, what's
three-legged
going on?
dog. Oh.
Oh my
I am
God.
Aaron. Thank you for helping Aaron.
Oh my God. Yeah. Soon I'll see you guys in person. But anything
Yeah.
Aaron needs, anything the island of Kauai needs, I'm here to help you guys out.
Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you.
She knows. Oh, you want to hear a great Kevin Smith story?
I would love to hear a great Kevin Smith
So she
story.
knows Kevin Smith from the 90s because I'm always geeking out about Kevin Smith. We saw Mallrats at a test screening in Century City. You remember that?
Yes. I was very nice.
She was like, "Who made this movie? It's like you."
Yeah, right?
Godzilla
Yeah.
went to comic convention. I had to
Yeah.
drag her. Talking about those early comic conventions, I had to drag her to the LA ones. What is that? Like all the Godzilla bootlegs and all the
Yep.
geeks. But yeah, it was pure fan geek. Like all the otaku.
Yeah.
She's from Japan. She's from Japan. So
You guys are big. Yeah, you guys are big G fans. So yes.
yeah. But the thing is, she's not. She didn't know who Iron Man was. What we're talking about was she didn't know who Iron Man was. You knew Wolverine though. Why did you know Wolverine? We're just talking about how before in the 90s people didn't know, but now, yeah.
Yeah, now everybody knows. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I'm cool too." I'm like, "Hey, well, we were cool before you were cool." Yeah.
Oh, we're on live like with a lot of people watching.
A lot of people watching.
Yeah,
That's
a
all
lot
right.
of people.
No.
Oh, she did. A lot of
Yeah,
people.
a lot of
watching.
people.
She's
A lot
like,
of people.
a lot
I was
of
like,
people
"Oh,
are
whoa."
watching. Yeah, she thought. Oh, I see. She thought it was only you and me.
Oh well, that's cool. Hey, that's cool.
Now she's all leaving. She's like, yeah, that's so funny. It's like,
Well,
there's like other people in the chat
Yeah.
room and other people
Yeah,
watching.
well, say hello to Aaron Soy for sure. Like,
Yeah. But she was really excited. But it's so funny though that like she knows. So she knows all my fandom of what is that? Kevin Smith and sorry about that.
no, not at all. You
Aku.
you brought up a good point. Those Mallrats test screenings. Not a lot of people got to go to those. So funny story about Mallrats. The first Mallrats test screening was at San Diego Comic-Con in 1995.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the test screening, of course, all the comic book geeks went to the test screening, and of course, everyone scored it like really high. Of course, because because Stan Lee's in it. Stan Lee, and there's a comic book shop. Yeah, so all the testers were like, oh, A+, this movie's awesome. And when Universal got the results back, they're like, whoa, this is gonna be a hit. Like Kevin, get ready. Like you're gonna make this is gonna be like the next. Yeah, this is gonna be the. I think they told him it was gonna be the next American Graffiti, is what they told him. He was like, oh my God. He's like, holy crap, I'm gonna be like George Lucas, like I'm gonna make $100 million and go on to make like a Star Wars. And then but sadly when it hit the theaters, it only made like 2.7 million. and not the 100 million that they were they
I
thought
know that
it
was
would
so
make.
sad. I was like,
Yeah,
no.
but it doesn't matter now. Like now, on home video, it's become, everyone loves
Oh,
Mallrats
it's a
now.
cult. Yeah, it's a cult classic. And now that see even that, like Stan Lee was in it. People didn't know who
Yep.
Stan. I mean, they kind of knew, but it wasn't like now. If you show up, it's like, wow, great cameo.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So if you look back on 1995, yeah, that was one of the very first Stan Lee movie cameos. So I think
Mhm.
Kevin started all that. I credit Kevin with starting all that.
Oh,
And
totally. I didn't know. Yeah, he could. He's the one that talked about like in Clerks. I was like, oh, I didn't know you could like talk about Star Wars or other
yeah,
movies and comic books in movies like that.
I was like, I thought only me and my friends
It's
talked about, guys who change toilets on the Death Star. I was like, oh no, man, there's this other guy that does it too. Like that's crazy. That's so
yeah.
cool. That's so yeah, that is so amazing. So, and then that all came
Mhm,
full circle. If anybody saw
mhm.
Captain Marvel, the Stan Lee cameo, he's reading the script to Mallrats in Captain
Yeah,
Marvel,
that was so
which
cool.
which was crazy. And I think Kevin
Uh-huh.
told that story.
Mhm.
They told him ahead of time, but even then, even though he knew that and he saw it, like he couldn't believe it that
His
they
head must have been
used.
like exploding. Like I can't believe this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Mhm,
absolutely. So I thought that was cool.
mhm,
And then Mike Zapsik, the other comic book man, he was
mhm.
like, "Hey, Stan Lee is in the Marvel universe reading a Kevin Smith screenplay." He was like, "You know what that means? That means we're in the Marvel universe too, because we're in Kevin's
Oh,
universe. Like we're actually,
that's
somewhere, you know,
in the
somewhere in the
Marvel universe.
yeah, somewhere in their universe is
Uh-huh.
us, floating around being idiots." But yes, I thought,
That's no, and I was gonna say, going back to your story about with your friends and you met you guys were like that geek group.
yeah.
So for me in Hawaii, it was the same thing where I loved comic books and all these obscure cult movies and things. Well, back then it wasn't cult like Big Trouble in Little China and Blade Runner and all that. But my friends, they didn't know what these things were. So for me, I had to introduce them. Well, I tried to. Like,
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, Wolverine, with the claws and
Yeah,
Iron
I was like,
Man
yeah,
and
yeah,
read
like
this comic.
it was like you have to read this. It's like don't whatever you're doing now, like put down your Nintendo controller,
Yeah.
turn off your TV, and
Mhm,
read this copy of Days of Future Past, or just or read whichever X-Men issue was out that day.
mhm,
Like you have to get into this because it's so cool, and it was hard convincing people.
mhm.
Um, but I think I think if I could, I found some more open-minded friends like, oh yeah, I'll check this out, and then they would come back to school the next day. They're like, oh my goodness, like that was so great. Like
Mhm.
why didn't you tell me about this before? I was like, well,
Mhm.
I tried to. You weren't listening to me. So
Exactly.
yeah,
I was like, now you like it? But
yeah.
then no, the comic a best response was from one of my friends. I gave him a X-Men comic, and then he later told me, "Hey, Aaron, this is like a movie." Storyboards. It's like because he was a film guy, he loved movies. It's like
Yeah.
this is like it's like storyboards for an awesome movie. I go,
Wait a
yes,
minute.
exactly.
Yeah, I was like, wow, you don't say. You don't say, like,
Exactly.
yeah.
But this was way before the Marvel movies and everything. So
Yeah. Yeah. So
uh,
I mean, well, we're lucky now, because I'm always seeing kids at the comic book shop, or I see them at Comic Cons, geek kids,
mhm.
and I'm like, man, you kids have it easy. Like you can wake up, you can turn on Netflix or Disney Plus, and you have a whole bunch of
Yeah,
like really really great comic book movies at
yeah,
your
yeah.
disposal. And not only that, you have 20 more coming for the rest of your life. There's going to be like 20, 40 more awesome comic book movies for the rest of your life. You're so
Mhm.
lucky. We didn't have that. There
Mhm.
were no really good comic book movies.
Do you remember those early
I
movies that you saw?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I try to tell kids, I was like, hey kids, like this might sound weird, and I'm not joking around, but David Hasselhoff was Nick Fury at once, and they're like, no way, Nick, the Michael, the Knight Rider guy, like the Baywatch guy,
Baywatch guy.
yeah, was Nick Fury. I'm like, yeah, that happened, and You know that guy. Ivan Drago from Rocky Four. He was the Punisher at one year, and these kids don't believe me. And then I'll pull it up on my phone or something. I was like, see, there's Dolph Lundgren as the Punisher, and they're yeah,
No
and
way.
I'm just trying to get them to appreciate how good things are now because
But
they
then
were
I'm
not.
sure you remember. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sure you also remember being excited to see Nick Fury and David Hasselhoff because he looked like the comic book.
Yeah,
And so you're like, for me, I was like, wow, I can't wait to see this.
yeah.
Turn it on.
Okay, yeah, I
Fuck.
remember like, okay, good try, and
Yeah.
I'll like this because that's all there is out there now. And
Exactly.
if I support this and other
Yeah.
people support it, one day they'll actually put real money into this. They'll get real writers. They'll use comic book storylines and make it a real movie instead of a movie to try to just to sell toys. And yeah, and
Yeah.
luckily, in our lifetime, at a time where we could actually enjoy it, they did that. That became possible.
Oh,
We're
I should say we're very blessed and fortunate.
We are. Yes, we are very.
Yes.
We're.
People don't know. You got to say back in the old days.
Oh yeah, like my
we
teeth are
used to
falling
walk.
out.
We didn't have that. Oh, by the way, I think people don't. They might think that this is a pre-recorded video, but we're actually live. So I
Yeah,
see
we're
some
live.
comments. Yeah. So somebody said my name is Dennis. Do you see that? Caleb McCoy. I remember that. And Jay and Silent Bob exist in the MCU.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
But
so
no,
you never know. They might pop up one day. You might see Jay and Silent Bob in the background of a future movie. Maybe like in Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu. Maybe you'll see Jay and Silent Bob in the background or something.
Or the comic book men.
Oh
the
yeah,
comic book men too. Yeah, they should. That was cool.
I
In
mean,
a Silent Bob reboot.
oh, okay, so you saw that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I yeah, for anybody who saw Kevin's new movie, yeah, about a year and a half ago, he was like, "Hey, I'm shooting the new movie. I want all you guys to come down. I wrote parts for all of you guys." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Like what do you want us to do?" I was like, "Well, you guys just play yourself as a comic book man. Like there's going to be a comic book man cameo." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. Then I don't have to act then cuz I can't act. I can be myself though." So, but he was like, "All right, well, the only catch is like we're shooting in New Orleans, and you guys are in New Jersey, and if you watch Comic Book Man, one of us doesn't like to fly. Walt Flanagan, he doesn't like to fly. So we were like, hey, let's do a road trip. We'll rent a van, and we'll drive. It was like a 23-hour drive down to New Orleans." And,
Sorry, I'll tell you, Sophie, my dog. Can you take Haku out? Thank you.
I like the dog.
He's like barking. The thing is, like all dogs bark at like people walking by.
Oh sure, yeah.
My daughter's saying thank you. But yeah.
Yeah, so we made a whole road trip, and we were down there for a couple days, and it's for anybody wondering what it's like being in a Kevin Smith movie. It's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's
pretty
so
awesome.
Cool.
Especially in a scene where he's dressed up as Silent Bob and Jay is dressed up as Jay, and they're Jay and Silent Bob right in front of you. Like it was pretty awesome.
I bet you're totally geeking up because weren't you a fan first?
Oh yeah,
of Clerks and everything, right?
Yeah, I started out as when Clerks came out in 1994. I was working at a video store, and I remember one day the movie Clerks came in, and I was supposed to put it on the shelf so we could rent it out and the store would make money. But I was like, I'm gonna watch this movie. I heard this movie was really funny. I was hesitant at first though. I was like, this movie's in black and white. Up until then, the only black and white movies were art movies or really old movies. I wasn't really into art movies, and it was 1994, so I wanted to see. I wanted to see sci-fi. I wanted to see action. I wanted to see gun battles. And Clerks was none of that. Clerks was just a couple of guys in a convenience store talking.
So what made you pick it up? It's just for word of mouth?
Two things. Yeah, one, I heard it was funny, and two, I heard it was shot in New Jersey, and the girl I was dating at the time was also from New Jersey. I ended up
Mhm.
marrying her. I ended up marrying her and moving
Oh.
to New Jersey, oddly enough. And a lot of it is really because all because I picked up and watched a movie. Really, if you look at it
Wow.
that way, that
Mhm. All
that
the
that
clerks.
one that yeah, that one little move of like taking that movie
Uh-huh.
home and putting it in my VHS, my VCR, and putting
Mhm.
hitting play did in a large part change my life. So, for
That's
anybody
amazing.
out there, like any small move could affect your life completely. So,
Wow.
but yeah, I remember I took it home and my brother was home. I was like, "Hey, what?" He wasn't doing anything. He's like, "Hey, you want to watch this?" And we put
Mhm.
it in and we were like, "What? This is awesome."
What?
I'm like,
Yeah.
"Who are these guys?" These guys, up until that, me and my
Mhm.
friends and my brother, it was a lot of like, what if you could what if you lived in the Star Wars universe? Like what vehicle would you drive? You could have any vehicle in the Star Wars universe. And we would get into like heated arguments. I was like, "Oh no, man, I would have it, I would love to drive an AT-AT." And my friend would be like, "Why would you want to drive that? It's so slow." I was like, "Well, AT-ATs are cool." He's like, "No, man, I would have an X-wing, or I'd take Darth Vader's TIE fighter." And we would
Yeah.
argue we would argue for hours over this, and we would get into fights. And I
Yeah.
and I thought it was just us though. I thought it was just us until I saw this movie, and I was like, "Well, you
Mhm.
can like not only did somebody make a movie based on like very much like the conversations we had, but I didn't know that you could put that in a movie, like you said. You
Exact
could,
yeah.
yeah,
So
and
like, what is this? Is this even possible? And
yeah,
that's us, right? Like you said,
yeah.
that's us.
Yeah, and the same thing happened with when I was going back to when I was a comic book geek. I saw this movie Clerks, right? And I was like, this movie is awesome. And I tried to get all my friends to watch it, and they wouldn't
Mhm.
watch it because they saw it was in
Wow.
black and white. And they
Mhm,
were
mhm.
I can't at the looking back, I can't really blame them, because they're like, well, what's this movie about? What's this movie about? And I'm like, well, it's about two guys in a convenience store. And they're like, And I'm like, well, that's it. They just talk the whole time. They're like, well, does anything else happen? I'm like, oh, well, there are these two drug dealers outside. They're really funny. One of them talks, one of them doesn't. And they're like, you know what?
Hilarious.
Yeah. And they're like, you know what? We're not, never, we're not going to watch this movie. And I can't blame them because Clerks came out in 1994.
Yeah.
And if you remember, 1994 was a pretty big year in movies. I think Forrest Gump came out,
Pulp
Shawshank Redemption,
Fiction. Yeah.
Pulp Fiction, like so
Mm.
many great movies came out in '94. Like movies with a Stargate. Like I remember all my friends went to go see Stargate instead of watching Clerks with me.
Kurt Russell.
And
Oh,
yeah, and James Spader, and they're
yeah.
like, oh well, they travel between dimensions. I'm like, okay, I can't beat that. I
Yeah.
I can't sell Clerks to sound better than that.
Stargate.
Although if you ask all of our friends like which movie is better, Clerks or Stargate, I bet almost all of them would say Clerks. So, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, there's a
and
comic
oddly
book geek
enough,
thing.
yeah.
Wow, but that's
So
amazing how that changed your life. Like you said, going to New
yeah,
Jersey, and then didn't you like work on Kevin Smith's website too, like in the early days?
yeah. So when Clerks, I was having so much trouble finding fans. It just because you know how it is.
Oh,
Like
for
when we
Clerks.
find something, yeah, like when we
Mhm,
find something cool,
mhm.
we want to talk about it. And if nobody else has seen what we have seen, then we
Mhm.
can't.
You
There's
wanna share
no
it with
one.
the world,
We get
like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, this
You
is
want to
so
share it.
cool." Mhm,
Yeah, and I had nobody to share it with, but coincidentally at the time I was learning how to build websites. So
mhm,
I was like, "Hey, maybe I can make like a Clerks fan website. I'll put it on the internet, and then like at the bottom I'll put my email address." And I was like,
mhm,
"Hey, if you've seen Clerks, send me an email. Like, tell me what your favorite scene is." Like I'm just trying to find friends.
mhm,
I'm trying to make
connect.
friends,
Mhm,
connect, find friends with
mhm,
other people who've seen Clerks. So
mhm,
that's what I did. I put up a big fan Clerks website, put
mhm,
my contact information on the bottom, and yeah, people started emailing me. I was like, "Oh man, you saw Clerks? I
mhm.
saw Clerks too. Like, wasn't it funny when, um, wasn't it funny when Randall knocked over a casket at a funeral, or wasn't it funny when they play hockey on the roof or whatever?" And I was like,
Mhm,
"Oh man, yeah, that was that was awesome." I was like, and we were like, "Who's this Kevin Smith guy? I'd love to meet him someday."
mhm.
Um, but yeah, a lot of fans, a lot of Clerks fans end up finding the website.
Oh, so it started off
Um,
as a clerk site, not like a Kevin Smith site.
Yeah, it was just Clerks.
Oh.
It was just
Mm,
Clerks.
Mhm.
I didn't know much about Kevin Smith. There were some scattered articles around, but
Uh-huh.
you couldn't even find these articles on the internet. Like you had to go and actually buy a magazine. Like when I heard Kevin Smith had an
Mhm.
interview in like Details magazine, I would go to the
Mhm.
bookstore, I would buy the magazine, I would read the article, and I was like, oh wow, this is more information. And I would find
Mhm.
out, I learned more about Kevin. So I think through those magazine interviews, I learned that he was a comic book fan, that
Mhm.
he loved writing, that he dropped out of film school. Like I started piecing together parts of his
Mhm.
life. And it was yeah, I was like, wow, this Kevin guy sounds pretty cool. Like I would love to meet him one day. And
Mhm.
yeah, lo and behold, that fan website I had up, he
Mhm.
had actually found it at an internet cafe, and he ended up calling me. He ended up giving me a call, and
Calling
yeah,
you? He
which
didn't
was
like
weird.
email you?
Yeah. Well, he emailed first,
Wow.
and then he was like, "Hey,
Oh,
call
okay.
me tomorrow. Like, I loved what you did with this website. I want more. I need your
Oh.
help. You seem to know
Mhm.
what you're doing. I need your help.
Mhm.
Call me tomorrow. Like
Uh-huh.
I want to talk about this. I think this could be big. I think this internet thing might be huge.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
What year was this?
That was 1995.
Uh-huh.
1995, like late
Mhm.
95 going into 1996. So this was
Mhm.
after Mallrats.
Yeah.
And I think he even told me, I was like, "Hey, like I found you right at the right time, because like Mallrats had not done very well at the box office, and he was kind of bummed out. And then
Mm.
he saw that he still had fans on all these fans on the internet. He's like, "Oh, wow, okay, like this is cool. Like I want to." And he was the same way as me. He wanted to meet his fans somehow. And he was
Mhm.
like, "Well, this internet thing might be the easiest way to do it." So his main goal was like, "Hey, can you build me a website where we can gather all my fans together and we can
Mhm.
interact?" And that's what I
Wow.
did. Yeah, and that
Mhm.
became the whole View Askew website that we built back in way
Wow.
back, like 24 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that. Wow.
Yeah.
And now he also, his forward thinking, he also did the forward thinking about podcasting
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah. He's a genius.
Mhm.
He always thinks like 10 steps ahead of everybody else. So because basically he was doing social media like 15 years before there was any social media. We had kind of a social media on our website where
Mhm.
he would go and he would post, he would answer fans' questions. It
Mhm.
was, we built basically like it was a we ultimately, what we did was we built a message board where people could post questions, and then he could come down and just answer them whenever he had time.
He's
And
so
we basically
accessible
we
like that, yeah.
yeah, we
Wow.
basically invented Reddit basically, because if you look at our old
Mhm.
message board, it looks like
Mhm.
Reddit does. So we're waiting for our Reddit check now. It's like, where's our Reddit money? We invented this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a scroll all the questions and answers
Yeah.
and
Yeah, but but he was interacting with fans on the internet way before Facebook, way before Twitter, way
Mhm.
before Instagram, way before TikTok. He was posting his own images on this, he was posting from the set of his own movies, telling people what
Mhm.
happened that day without spoiling anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. At times he got Ben Affleck on there to answer people's questions. He would get other people to, yeah, it was so cool. It was really cool.
Wow.
But I was just really cool. I thought it was really I was always very honored to be able to help him out in that way, though,
So
because it was,
Mhm.
technology, building websites, being behind a computer. This is all stuff that I love. So I was
Mhm.
happy that I could share something I loved with him. And then yeah, you were right. Kevin started podcasting in 2007. So
Mhm.
it was very early. Now everybody
Or
knows what
Stitcher,
podcasts are.
yeah. Like I
Yeah.
was telling you, like I was listening to it when I heard Kevin Smith was doing that podcast. I didn't know what it was, but I jumped on and it was amazing.
Yeah,
Like
it was
it's
just him,
Mhm.
same thing, telling stories in his
Mhm.
own voice. But the great thing, I was like, wow, these podcasts, like he can say whatever he wants. He
Mhm.
can he can, tell stories without any restrictions. Like he can curse. He can tell them only as only Kevin Smith can tell them. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, what a cool format. What a great thing. Yeah, I remember listening to that first podcast. I was like, this is awesome. This
Mhm.
is so great. So
Oh, so going back to your early story about the website, when was the first time that you actually got to meet him in person?
I built the website, I think like February 1996. And then it was later on that summer, I think it was probably like June or July. He was like, "Hey, why don't you come up for a couple days? Like, I'd love to meet you. Like, I want to tell you like more stuff that I want to do online. We
Mhm,
should meet." And the girl that I was dating, who was from New Jersey, she lived in the
mhm,
next town over from
mm,
Red Bank, where it's kind of the
mhm,
the Kevin Smith mecca.
mhm,
So that was cool. So I got to go see her. I stayed at her house, and then I would just go over. And I remember, yeah, he had a little second story office. So I remember going up the stairs and I opened the door, and there he was, like smoking a cigarette. And he was like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" So
It's like, "This
that
is
was
the
cool.
guy, Clerks. This is the
Yeah,
man that made you
yeah.
move."
It was kind of like that scene in Phantom Menace. It was like Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is Anakin Skywalker, and this is three C3PO. Like, oh wow, nice to meet you. And that
The
starts off
beginning.
everything. It's the beginning. Yeah. It was
Wow,
yeah,
and then
it was cool. And then later on that day, I met Jay. I met Jason Mewes, who
Mhm.
was as crazy as he is in the movie. And I kind of I went to the Quick Stop. I did the whole tour.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a life changing. It was all of this is all was very life changing for sure.
That's amazing to hear the evolution or the progression. Like now you're like, Ming Chen and comic book men and Kevin Smith. And so it's
I,
fascinating to hear how all of this starts.
yeah, but I mean, I tell kids or I just tell fellow fans or people I meet at Comic Cons, this all started and keeps going because I'm a fan and I never
Mm,
let that go.
mhm.
All those people growing up, telling me to stop reading comic books, to stop collecting GI Joes, to stop playing with toys, to why it's like why are you spending $200 on a statue of Starfire? I'm like, because
Yeah,
Starfire is cool. Like this is a
it's
cool
cool.
statue.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they're like, "Well, what are you gonna do with that?" I was like, "I'm gonna put it in my room, or I'm gonna put it in my apartment,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna put it in my studio. And every day when I see that statue, I'm gonna be like, man, that's cool. Like
It just
I
makes
love."
you happy to see the statue. You know what? Saying that, I gotta say, it's so funny because, talking about things like here. Do you remember this? Oh, I, this guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Remember this
Oh my God,
guy, right?
where did you
That guy,
get that?
yeah. So online, I saw that online. I'm like, oh, I wanted this so bad as a kid, and
Yeah,
they never had a toy. Well, I had a model, but not this actual toy. And then
right. And that one
so
looks like it's got
yeah, and it's
accessories and
yeah, it's still. Oops, sorry.
oh
So
yeah,
anyway,
don't break it.
and oh no, it's just the stand. But anyway, like just seeing this. Oh, and then of course I had to get this next. This
Oh, of
dude,
course.
right?
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, and then like
Oh, that's
he
awesome.
pops up and his head. We can't really see there. But anyway, this is the things like when you're a kid, like you're talking about the toys and the statues. It just brings you joy. So it's like I wanted this since I was a kid, and now
Yeah.
as an adult, I have this, and it's just like a statue by my computer. But every time I see this, it
Yep.
brings back good. It makes me smile. Like, oh, look at that! That's so great. Makes me happy,
Yeah,
right? So
I think
yeah.
the big drawback of of us trying to buy stuff from our childhood back is
Mm,
like it costs 10 times as much to get it back now.
mm.
Like they're all collectibles now. So now
I
it's
got
it's,
talking about
eh,
another. Talking about, I don't know if it's worth it, but I don't know if you've
oh,
seen
that's
this. It's
awesome.
an old Tron game. Yes, it's an old
I've
Tron.
I've never seen that. That's so
I,
cool.
I just won it on eBay recently. I'm always been trying to bidding for years, bidding on this, and I'm always outbid. So
Yeah.
I got lucky and I got it for a good price, like a pretty cheap price. But I wanted this thing so bad when I was a kid, and now I have
Oh.
it. So it's the same thing as that geek, like,
Oh.
oh, it makes me so
Yeah.
happy. I don't have to really play it. It plays, but just having it
Yeah.
makes me happy.
I've never seen that. I didn't even know that existed. When I was a kid,
Really?
I wanted the stand-up arcade game, with
Yeah.
the light
I know.
cycles and the MCP cone
Yeah,
and
the joystick.
yeah, and the joystick. And I never bought one for myself, but Kevin actually bought one in for the
Oh,
office a long time ago.
oh,
So yeah,
sweet.
I spent hours playing the old Tron arcade game. And
Classic.
he yeah, he ended up selling it, but I was like, man,
Oh,
I wish I could have bought it at the time. I should have made
yeah.
an offer. I just didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I
Ah,
would I have a place for it now for sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's so
The
cool.
I think
That's
that's a
so
lot of for a lot of kids or a lot of people did that old Tron game brings back, it brings back great memories of the
Oh yeah,
arcade and the
a lot of
music. Yeah.
memories, lot
Mhm.
of frustration, lot of, yeah, mainly good memories of being in a dark arcade and playing Tron, or
Yeah.
playing Miss Pac-Man. That scene from Stranger Things where you're digging
Yeah.
for change, where you're digging for change, and they go to they go to the arcade with all your friends. I did that. I remember when Gauntlet came out, that the arcade game Gauntlet. We
Yeah,
were like,
or the
whoa,
little guys. Yeah, four
yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. Wizard need food badly. Yes, I remember. We were
Right.
like, wait a minute. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. There's like a D&D themed game, like kind of a D&D game, and four of us can play at the same time. I was like, oh man, we got to get
Incredible.
all the money. We got to go rob a bank or something. I don't know. We need all the quarters in the world so we can play
Yeah.
Gauntlet like for hours. Yeah,
And there's like no end to it either.
there is
Right?
no end. I found that out pretty quickly that there is no end to Gauntlet. It just keeps going and going. It's so,
No, I
yeah,
was
it's
gonna
so
say,
cool.
talking about Gauntlet and all these childhood memories is, how Kevin Smith got that game, but now there's the One Up arcades,
Yep, where you
the
got,
cheaper
yeah,
version. Yeah,
yep.
yeah. So the Gauntlet is on there, and yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great way to.
Gauntlet 2, like yeah, you get like 5,000 games into one thing now.
Yeah, it's cool what you just said. When you brought back memories where you said it was a dark arcade.
Oh yeah.
They were dark. Now, I mean, we have arcades, but they're all kind of bright.
Yeah, there's
I
all
know.
that like neon and like black lights,
Mm,
and yeah, you're right. They're too bright. I can't
yeah.
get used to that.
Well,
Yeah.
over here we have like a Fun Factory and Oahu. There's Chuck E. Cheese, with all the games. But it's all kind of, it's all bright, right?
Yeah, it's too. I remember it's too clean. I remember when I went to the arcade, they had ashtrays. Like you could smoke there back in the day. In the '80s, nobody cared about smoking, so like you could smoke at the arcade. It was so weird, but
There was a smell.
there was a smell. The floors were
Hmm.
sticky. Everything was not very clean. It would have never survived in like a COVID world, but back in the '80s, it
Oh,
made us strong though.
there's a question by my name. My name is Dennis. It says, "How did you end up in the store? The
so
secret
I
stash?"
so I started working with Kevin in 1996. A year later, I remember he was like, "Hey, I bought a comic book shop." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I bought the local comic book shop that I usually shop at." He
Oh.
said the owner was moving to Thailand, and he was like, "Hey, Kevin, do you want to buy the shop?" He's like, "Kevin, I'll sell you the store and all the inventory for I can't remember what the price was, but he had just got like a big check from Clerks or something. He was like, "Wow, I could own my own comic book shop." He's like, "Yeah, and
Childhood
I'll get my friend
dream.
Walt yeah, I'll get my friend Walt to run it, and maybe
Mhm.
Brian Johnson will run it too." And Brian actually did run it for a little bit, but he didn't. Of course, Brian. He wanted no part of it. So yeah, so Kevin's had the secret stash since 1997. It is
Oh,
23
wow.
20, almost 24 years old too. So
Wow.
yeah, shortly before, so whenever I visited, I would go hang out in the comic book shop and bother
Mm.
Walt or whoever was there.
Fellow
But
comic book men.
yeah, I didn't know it at the time. Yeah, again, it's like Star Wars, like Walt Flanagan, meet Ming Chen, like like
Yeah.
who
The
knew?
origins.
Yeah, if you would have told me that first day I met those two knuckleheads that we would wind up on TV together, I'm like, no
AMC after
way.
The
Yeah,
Walking Dead
yeah,
in its
like no
prime.
way. Yeah. But yeah, slowly the store grew. The store actually moved locations to a bigger location a couple years later. And when I came to work for Kevin full time in 2002. And
Mhm.
so, I would run all his tech things, but I would go to the store too. Like I was always going back and forth. And yeah, eventually, they would go they would need to go run an errand or something, like, "Hey, we'll teach you how to run the cash register." Like, comics,
Mhm.
right? You'll be fine. Like if, just help,
Questions.
yeah, just help everybody out. And slowly but surely I started integrating myself in the shop as well as Kevin's main operation. So I was kind of doing everything. And never knowing that we would ever wind up on TV or anything like that, like
And
it's so
that's
weird.
amazing because I remember thinking like, I used to listen to your podcast before, with the
Yeah.
guys. right? The whole
Yeah.
Tell 'em Steve Dave and everything.
Yep.
And then
Tell 'em
when
Steve
I
Dave. Yep.
when I heard that they're doing the show, I'm like, wow, this is like I get to see you guys on TV after
Yeah.
The Walking
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of Kevin's podcast, or if you're a fan of the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast, it is kind of the podcast come to
Yeah.
life, just less dirty. There's less swearing on the TV show because they don't let us swear, but it's
But it
pretty
was kind
much
of the same,
yeah.
where you guys geek
Yeah, it
out.
was
But
the
the cool,
same.
the interaction and the jibes and No, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
and
and
the difference is you got to meet like Stan Lee and Lou Ferrigno and Ralph Macchio and all these like celebrities. Who was the best?
yeah, Adam
Or
West.
your favorite?
Adam West.
Adam West.
I mean, Stan Lee was definitely the best. I mean, Stan Lee was just meeting Stan Lee is like meeting, meeting, a god.
The Dalai Lama over there.
Yeah, and he's kind of like the guy who created a whole universe that we both live in, like we
Mhm,
both immerse ourselves into.
mhm,
There aren't a lot of people ever who have really done that. I can think like Walt Disney did that,
mhm,
and
mhm,
there might have been a couple other people who have had that kind of influence on a whole world and made it fun like that. So
mhm,
yeah, that was cool. But anyone from the original Star Wars universe, I really geeked out over. So we got Peter Mayhew who came in the store, the guy who played
mhm,
Chewbacca, and then Billy D. Williams
mhm.
came in. Yeah, again,
Oh,
if you told me as a kid that hey, this is gonna sound weird, but one day Chewbacca and Lando Calrissian are gonna come in to the comic book shop that you work at, and they're gonna shoot a TV show that you're the star of. I'm like, get away from me, old man! Like this, stop telling tall tales because this whatever you're describing is so weird that it'll never happen. But it's
like,
yeah, it's so weird
yeah,
that it happened.
it's like, to all the kids out there, dreams can come true. Like you'll meet
Yeah,
all
you
the
never know. You never
yeah.
know, and you know what? Like if you're watching or you have kids, or maybe maybe you're in a crappy job and you're trying to get out. I didn't do anything special. I just read comics. I played video games. I and I watched movies, and I had other friends who did the same thing, and it just good things. I think good things happen when you're this passionate about something. I think good things happen.
Oh, good. I agree with that 100%. Except one thing is like you got to be cool. Like your personality, how you are. You're not what's without swearing. Not a mean guy. Not a
Right, right.
jerk.
You can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be a jerk fan. You got to be a cool fan. That's a great point. You got to be a
Right.
cool fan for sure. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and
Be cool.
I think yeah. I mean, yeah, and be cool like Aaron from Kawaii as well. But I think that's also a good point though. Is I've been to I can't even count how many conventions I've been to now in my life. Over
I
100.
bet.
I know 150. And every
Wow.
time, everybody there is always very nice, very polite. Everybody's helping each other out. Everyone is
Mhm,
happy. Everyone has a good attitude. And
mhm,
like these are the people I want to surround myself with every weekend. And
mhm.
whenever
And they're
people are
here.
like, wow, you go,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh no,
and
I was gonna say
they're
they're
at
here
the Kawaii,
they're here in Hawaii too. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I can't, I can't wait to meet them. Like, I'm just glad I met the nut who decided to start a con in Kauai. I've seen
Yeah.
him, I got to see him a
There's
couple
so
times,
many others that exist.
which
They
is so
exist
awesome.
among us in
But
Hawaii.
I'm so happy that one day you're like, you know what? I think I'm gonna try this. Like, it might work, it might not work.
Mhm,
It's and this is something I want to dedicate a lot of my time, my efforts,
mhm.
and these things aren't
Passion.
free, so dedicate some money to it too,
Mhm.
and actually make this happen. And that one move that you did affected thousands of people. And
Yeah, and it's
I
positive. I
think
was
that's
gonna
amazing.
And it's a positive thing in the community. I
Yeah.
felt like, it's like so making a difference in the community. Everybody's so happy and the families and the kids. I was gonna say like so in San Diego, we met these two other Hawaii guys.
Yeah.
And they gave you the chocolates with like a Hello
Oh yeah.
Kitty,
Yep.
macadamia
Yeah.
nuts, but they're from the 501st in
Yeah.
Hawaii. So the 501st, they have all the awesome Star Wars cosplay costume official, like really looks great. So
Yeah.
I can't wait for them to come to Kauai. They're from Oahu. So but if they come to Kauai, can you imagine like all the kids here on Kauai who haven't been to a con, and they all love Star Wars. Imagine seeing all these, Star Wars characters walking around taking
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah.
So
I mean,
much joy.
you're gonna see Darth Vader. You're gonna see Boba Fett and Darth Vader for sure. You'll probably see a
Hmm.
bunch of stormtroopers, and then
Hmm.
who knows who else will show up. Some
Yeah.
Jedi's. I bet some Jedi's will show up.
Hmm.
If I were a kid and I saw that, and
Hmm.
maybe I haven't seen a lot of cosplay before. Yeah, I think my mind would be blown. I'm like, wow.
Right. Yeah. So
I'm like,
imagine that as a kid. So that's
I,
why I was gonna say, yeah. So that's the cool thing about coming to Kauai too. Is like everybody's very, like I said, everybody's very appreciative, and the families and the kid. The how do you say, like, you can just feel the energy of like when
yeah,
people are excited about something, and like that's
yeah.
cool, that's cool. Let's take pictures. Can you take a picture? Right? It's like a positive, fun energy, right?
Yeah, it's cool, and it's
Comic-Con.
you don't see stormtroopers every day of your life, so I treasure each and every day that I get to take a picture with a stormtrooper, or just or a Jedi, or Boba Fett. It's these are we've seen all these characters on the screen, big screen, small screen, whatever, but when they come to life, it's even better.
Yeah.
That's why I love cosplay so much.
Oh, we have a question before. It says by Momichu. This is random, but what is that Golden Girls thing hanging behind you?
So right there, that is a Golden Girls skateboard. It was put up. Yeah, it was put up by Funko about 2 years ago. I think it was a San Diego Comic Con exclusive in 2018, I want to say. And they're around. They're on eBay. They're at a couple retail outlets. But I saw that. I was like, wow, if a Golden Girls skateboard exists, I want it. We're collectors, but something that awesome and weird and unique, like, I need that. So that is literally a Golden Girls skateboard.
You know who I got to tell that, or who has to discover this, is Dylan Anchetta. He is from the Hawaii News. He's like a reporter, and he did the cosplay contest. He was the MC for a lot of
Yeah.
the panels and things. But he loves Golden Girls, like all the everything Golden. He said he would buy the Golden Girls house if he could.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, a Girls skateboard. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I don't think I'm gonna put trucks on there. I'm probably not gonna shred with it. I think it's just gonna stay safely up on the wall.
Yeah, it's
But
like
I
my
think
black hole statues, right? Just like,
yeah,
oh, you look at
yeah,
it.
but what you see behind me is only like a tenth of what we have in the podcast studio here. But I think out of all the things we have in here, that one probably gets the most comments. That skateboard.
Oh, really? More than like
Yeah,
the other,
yeah,
like, yeah, I can
more than
see.
the Stormbreaker, more than
Hmm.
the Aliens pulse rifle.
Aliens.
Yeah, more than the
Hmm.
Batman statue. Yeah, it's that
Golden
skateboard.
Girl.
So yeah, it's so great.
It says best skateboard ever by Momichu.
Oh yeah, I
So
agree.
thank you for being a friend.
Yeah, thank you for being a friend. Yeah, traveled down the road, skated down the road and back again. So yeah.
Among Us. So I guess, Kawaii Kon official Among Us. I guess, when I was saying all the geeks, they're Among Us in
Yes.
Hawaii. So not the game, that very popular game. Do
Very
you play that?
popular. I have not played yet.
Oh,
I saw Jason Mewes was streaming it on Twitch the other night. So I think I'm gonna
it's
have to
fun.
hop on there. I'm gonna have to hop on there, and it looks amazing.
It's hilarious. When I first played it, it was in a room of other people and
Yep.
relatives and friends. And when I got killed, I went, ah!
No,
So
not
I
me.
was like,
No.
I know, like, shh, be quiet. I'm like, oh, okay.
No.
When I first started,
Yeah. Oh right, yeah. I think you're not supposed to tell
you're
anybody,
not
right?
supposed to tell who's dead or who's the
Right.
imposter. And yeah,
Right. Yeah, that kind
you
of
gotta be
ruins
quiet.
the murder
Yeah.
mystery. Yeah. That's so
Ah,
funny. Well,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
counting.
Oh.
Oh no, go ahead.
It says, who is Ming's favorite comic character? My name is Dennis Caleb McCoy.
Oh, Dennis. That answer changes depending on what day it is and depending what hour it is.
Mhm.
I was really there was a Hawkeye comic book run a couple years ago that I totally fell in love with. It's written by Matt Fraction, drawn by an artist named David Aja, and I totally fell in love with that. So I thought I was really into Hawkeye for a long time. Growing up, I was really into Daredevil and Wolverine. I loved Wolverine because he was short. I think his
Mhm.
official height is 5'3". I'm like, wow, I'm
Mhm.
5'4", he's shorter than me, and he can still beat, you know, he can cut people to shreds. I really looked up to him, but as a kid, my first comic was the Avengers, so I liked like all the Avengers, like Iron Man, you know, Captain America, Tigra, you know, I loved all the Avengers, so it was hard for me to pick as a kid,
Oh,
but
interesting. So you were a DC fan first before what is that? I mean, DC Marvel fan before
Marvel,
DC.
yep, I was definitely a
Oh,
Marvel fan first, yeah, but
oh, interesting. Because I know a lot of people. For I know for myself included, was I started with like the Super Friends as a cartoon,
yes, I
and then you
remember,
know all the Super Friends stuff, and then when I got older, then it was the more heavier Marvel stuff.
yeah, for sure,
Oh, but you
yeah, it was.
started with Marvel.
Yes, I started with Marvel, and then yeah, then I watched Super Friends like you did, and then I just started liking everything. Like I didn't even care if it was Marvel or DC at any point. I just cared if it was cool, I would read it. So
That's great because yeah, it doesn't matter. Like it's like Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever. It's like why not love everything, right? DC
yeah,
and Marvel.
totally, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So it was yeah, and I still get that question to this day. You know, DC or Marvel? I'm like, why not both? You know,
Yeah.
I can't
Oh,
I can't pick.
mhm, they're both so great. Love
Yeah,
both.
for
It's
sure.
I believe it's 5 o'clock now.
All right, I
I
guess
think they have
we gotta
yeah
make
they have
way for
another panel coming up. So
oh,
yeah,
well, that went by so fast. It was so much fun. Well, we'll
I
have to
know.
continue this in person at Kawaii
Yes.
Comic Con.
Hmm.
Um,
Meet
where I
everybody here.
where I look forward to being at, and yeah, we'll do a live, you know, comic book man Ming Chen panel, and we can do this in person, which would be
Oh,
amazing.
can you imagine all the Hawaii geeks like raising their hand and coming up asking you? So now I
I
can, or you, yeah,
I can't wait. I truly can't wait for that. I think that's gonna be like one of the best things like that'll happen in my life for sure.
yeah, and take pictures with all the Hawaii cosplayers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm down. If you're watching this or you're listening to this, and yeah, come to Kawaii Comic Con 2021.
Hmm.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yes, it will. Thank you so much, Ming, for joining us for at
Absolutely.
Kawaii Kon. It's so funny. There's Kawaii Kon, which is like cute in Japanese. They're like an anime, and Kawaii, like the Hawaiian island. Kawaii,
Yeah.
so very similar. But yeah, thank you so much to Kawaii Kon for inviting Kawaii Comic Con to this wonderful virtual event. We're very appreciative to be a part of this great event and party. Awesome job. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for
And
jumping
yeah.
on with me. I'm so happy to see you, my friend.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm so happy to see you. So hopefully next time in Hawaii.
Yes, for sure. But yeah, mahalo
Cool.
everybody, and
Okay, yeah.
stay safe.
Oh, yes.
Wear your masks, and we'll all be together very soon.
Yes. Hey, thanks. Bye.